This monitor is a double agent, switching identities and mission objectives at the flick of a switch. In some settings, it's the suave and stunning, shake and not stirred type, but in others, it's a rough and tumble, strike first and ask question later type. This is the new 32-inch ASUS ROG Swift OLED PG32 UCDP, and we're going to talk about it from a couple of different angles right here, right now on Robeytech. Let's say that you're shopping for a new monitor, but you're torn. You'd like a crisp 4K display with amazing color reproduction, but you're also a bit of a sweat, and you love pushing as many 1080p frames with smoother than butter motion in competitive games to get your W's in. Which do you choose? Well, what if you didn't have to? Well, that's the aim of the ASUS ROG Swift OLED PG32 UCDP. But is this one of those products that tries to make everyone happy but ends up not giving anyone enough of what they really want? Well, let me put it like this. ASUS may have sent us one for review, but this monitor we love so much, and it did so many things extremely well, so much so that one of our Robeytech team members went out and bought one for themselves, even at its full price. At the time of this video, this monitor had a retail price of just under $1,300, but we've seen instances where the price has come down a little bit here and there. That's actually really expensive for a monitor, but believe it or not, it's not alone in that price range. When we look at the 4K OLED monitor market, there are a handful of 4K OLEDs that are around the same price range, but only one of them had a big killer feature that sets this monitor in review apart from the pack. And that feature is the whole double agent thing that we talked about in the beginning. While it's technically a 31.5-inch 4K display with a 240Hz refresh rate, this monitor has a dual mode that converts it to a 1080p display with a 480Hz refresh rate. Now, we're gonna get into the specs, but this is where our review is gonna take a few side quests. These two resolutions and refresh rates cater to two entirely different crowds, but there are other features the monitor offers that are a huge benefit to both as well. So we're going to split off and talk about each group while highlighting the monitor specs and features that matter most to that particular group before we get into the things like assembly and ports. Let's start with the cinematic gamer. These guys who love playing games at 4K with all the settings cranked up, all the details crisp, all the rays being traced. They want a broad color spectrum with accurate color representation as well as deep color tones. Not only that, but the monitor size has to be as big as the gaming experience itself. So if you're the type of gamer and you enjoy being immersed in the worlds that you play in, this monitor offers a number of features that fit that criteria. Now, we already mentioned that this is a 4K display with a 240Hz refresh rate. So for all those cinematic gamers worried about a choppy gaming experience at 4K, as long as your PC hardware can do it, this monitor's got you covered. But it doesn't stop there. It has a beautiful WOLED panel. Now, if you're familiar with OLED but not WOLED, WOLED adds an extra white LED into the mix, creating deep, rich blacks, bright whites, and vibrant colors. For this monitor, that means it has a peak HDR brightness of 1300 nits. It's got 10-bit color depth, 1.5 million to 1 contrast ratio, and a Delta E less than 2 color gamut. It's also worth mentioning that this is ASUS's 3rd generation OLED, so they've improved things like HDR brightness, text clarity, and improved motion blur. Now, those things sound great on paper, but when we looked at the color uniformity with the ISO monitor test, we saw smooth gradients, sharp text, and incredible color distinction. So we have confirmation on all of those things and the fact that they're all good, just like we can confirm that pressing those like, subscribe, and notification buttons are also very good things. So do it real quick. Now, speaking of good things, we spent some time with games like Black Myth Wukong, Cyberpunk 2077, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, and Destiny 2 on this monitor. At 4K, that 240Hz refresh rate, that depth of color, and the rich HDR made every experience an absolute treat. So if you're a cinematic gamer, the monitor ticks all the right boxes. But cinematic enjoyers aren't the only gamers that this monitor has in mind. There are also the competitive crew. These are the gamers that enjoy competitive multiplayer where the priority is on speed, smooth action, and refresh rate. For this gamer, every frame could be a deciding factor in victory or defeat, and seeing clearly is absolutely paramount. This is where this monitor's 1080p mode with a 480Hz refresh rate comes into play. To assist in making this happen, this monitor carries AMD FreeSync Premium Pro and NVIDIA's G-Sync compatible certifications, as well as VESA Adaptive Sync 240 and 480. These are certifications that ensure that image tearing and input lag are kept at bay. Not only that, the monitor has a 0.03 millisecond gray-to-gray response time that is basically super helpful for reducing image ghosting. So when you put it all together, the super high refresh rate, the low response time, and adaptive sync technologies, this monitor is making sure that 360 no-scope is just as smooth on the monitor as it was in the memory in your head. Now, speaking of things that just aren't in our head, the smoothness of motion could be seen when we ran the test UFO as well. Now, we tried to capture the pictures to show whether or not there was any ghosting, but this thing is so dang fast. It's like when my dad basically hears that Taco Bell is nearby. Our cameras just can't capture an image fast enough to prove or disprove the presence of any ghosties. We connected this monitor to a beastly PC with a 9800X3D and an RTX 4080 Super, slapped on a few competitive titles like Apex Legends and Deadlock, and watched super smooth games at 1080p. But on a 31.5-inch display, the image did look a bit fuzzy. ASUS actually came up with a solution for this, but it comes with some trade-offs. This monitor has an option to change the aspect ratio to scale the size of the picture down to either 27 inches or 24.5 inches. Now, the trade-off is that you won't be able to turn on the monitor's variable refresh rate features. We did see some screen tearing while watching. It wasn't horrendously bad, but it was noticeable. Now, there are a few workarounds that you could do to get around this, like using VSync or locking your frame rate. Alternatively, you could just resize your display in either NVIDIA or AMD's control panel and keep your adaptive sync on. That hiccup aside, it actually is kind of insane just how smooth both 240 and 480 Hz refresh rates were, and how good the picture quality was both at 4K and 1080p with G-Sync enabled. So now that we have a picture of both the monitor's features that benefit both cinematic and competitive gamers, we have to talk about some crossover features that ASUS lumps under the banner of AI Assist. These features are AI Crosshair, which slaps the reticle up on the screen and changes colors to contrast with the background it's hovering over. MOBA Map Helper basically gives you screen cues that help you find group battles and where they're happening. This is actually pretty cool, and we've seen this at CES before. It's pretty neat. AI Sniper automatically zooms into targets to help you get good with aiming during practice sessions on your favorite shooters, which is totally how gamers are going to use this, right? Nobody's going to use this in a real match, right? Now, AI Shadow Boost enhances dark areas without overexposing the overall picture. This can help you spot things that go bump in the digital night, especially if you're playing something like Phasmophobia. And finally, there's AI Visual. Now, this feature, it's still in beta, but it's actually a pretty neat enhancement. AI Visual automatically detects the best mix of picture presets for what's happening on screen. In other words, rather than fussing with profile settings and forgetting you had your monitor set to either FPS mode or you need to be writing, AI Visual will detect and switch all that for you. Now let's talk about connectivity really quick. This monitor has two HDMI 2.1 ports, a DisplayPort 1.4 connection, USB Type-C with DisplayPort alt mode and power delivery, a USB hub, optical audio out, and so much more. Now, part of that more is that this is a KVM monitor. That means that your USB Type-A ports can be shared between two devices. So if you have like a gaming PC and work laptop on your desk, you could share keyboard, mouse, and monitors between these two devices. Now, the monitor has both picture-by-picture and picture-in-picture modes if you want to share the screen between two devices. This does require turning off a few settings like disabling variable refresh rate. So again, you have to decide if the trade-offs are a value add for you or not. Personally, we love having the KVM feature when we're trying to control two systems without the need for a second keyboard and mouse in the mix. Now, since we're talking about controls here, the monitor has a 5-way control button located on the underside of the panel, right smack in the center of the monitor, with hotkey buttons on either side. You can also adjust settings using the ASUS Display Widget software, which is a really handy utility for setting up key commands for things like changing monitor settings on the fly, and for features like App Tweaker that allows you to save application-based settings for your monitor. Assembly of this monitor is actually super simple. The panel, stand, and base all attach to each other without the need of any tools, but you definitely want to be careful here. There are two contact pins on the monitor stand that contact the back of the monitor in order to power the RGB on the stand. Now, as for desktop real estate, you're going to want about 3 feet worth of horizontal space to work with, as well as about 2 feet of vertical space. Now, the monitor panel itself has a slim profile with a minimalistic bezel. Even looking at the depth of the panel, the housing of the connectors and components is significantly smaller than the actual screen size itself. The monitor has a 3-year warranty that does cover cover panel burn-in. ASUS also lists their bright/dark dot pixel policy on their warranty site so you can get a full picture of the coverage. I think this may be one of the few monitor warranties that we've seen that offers this kind of transparency. So with all that in mind, now the question is the ASUS ROG Swift OLED PG32 UCDP worthy of becoming your next monitor? The monitor is amazing at just about everything it does. There is that whole fuzziness of 1080p at maximum screen size, but we're not actually terribly surprised it's there. But honestly, everything about this monitor feels premium. All the fitment, the materials, the extras, and the quality of the user experience were all absolutely peerless. Now, when we look at all of the monitor's features together, this thing is meant for a very specific type of person. The gamer who wants that very premium experience in both cinematic single-player titles, as well as that super competitive experience in multiplayer titles. Now, on the cinematic side, we have a display with a rich depth of HDR colors provided by a vibrant OLED panel with an incredible amount of refresh rate headroom at 4K. This mode allows gamers to experience features like ray tracing in the best possible way. Not to mention HDR, right? Now, on the competitive side, we have a display that delivers a super high refresh rate that is both AMD FreeSync Premium Pro and G-Sync compatible certified, while carrying over all the features that make this an incredible cinematic display. Now, while we do wish that users didn't have to sacrifice variable refresh rate at 27-inch or 24.5-inch rescaling, like we mentioned earlier, there is at least a workaround and the options that are still there for users to feel out what they like and what works for them. Now, if only one of these feature sets sounds appealing, this is not the monitor for you. But if both feature sets sound amazing, then you're probably wondering and looking at how many Dr. Pepper cans you need to collect to afford this monitor. $1,300 price tag is pretty high for a monitor, but let's actually put it into perspective. And yes, we actually can. Let's say that you're looking at getting a 1080p monitor with a 480 Hz refresh rate or higher. You're probably gonna be locked out at around 24 inches without OLED, but you would start seeing refresh rates above 500 Hz. Your starting price here before any sales is gonna be around $600 or more. Well, what about 4K? Well, again, keeping the same standards here, 32 inches, 4K resolution, 240 Hz refresh rate, and OLED, you're looking at a starting point for around $800 or more. When you start looking at both of those in context, $1,300 basically starts to make a whole lot more sense. Not to mention the desktop real estate saved by using only one monitor versus two. Now, there are at least two of you who are out there thinking, but Roby, you said there was another monitor that can do what this one does? Surely that other monitor shows the ROG tax at work here, right? Well, the other monitor we found was from LG, and it was actually $100 more expensive, and it doesn't have the same feature set. So that theory doesn't really pan out. Now, let's be real though, they're both still really expensive, but keep in mind that's only one feature we've been focusing on. If $1,300 is way too daunting, you just don't need a monitor that can switch back and forth like this one can. There are several incredible monitors that can cost significantly less or are better suited for your potential needs. But back to our recommendation. If you match the description of the hypothetical gamer above and you have the cash, then we think you're going to really enjoy this monitor. We were blown away by our experiences with it, and we can see how this could really be an incredible option for people who want uncompromising gaming experiences at both 4K and 1080p while boosting refresh rates at as high as possible in either resolution. And that just about wraps this up. And we want to give a huge shout out to ASUS for letting us check out the PG32 UCDP. But we want to know what you think. Do you like the idea of a multitasking monitor like this? And what features would you like to see merged together into one in other monitors? Let us know all that down in the comments below. Now, while you're down there, make sure you slap that subscribe button, whip that like button, and ring that notification bell so that you get a notification each and every time we post a video like this right here in Robeytech. And if you want to continue the conversation, maybe you want to talk more about what may be the right monitor for you and you still have questions, head over to our Discord server, discord.gg/Robeytech. Amazing place to talk to other tech and PC enthusiasts who love to have these conversations. You know what? You might just make a friend. Also, follow us at Robeytech at all the other socials. Thank you so much for watching. We look forward to seeing you on the next one.